Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new school year, 23-24. So great to have you guys all in the house today. We have got some pretty exciting changes for the technical administrators and accountability administrators on the backside of MISchoolData. Today's session, you can access all the materials by grabbing that tiny URL. So if you want to grab a screenshot or we can throw it in the chat, just wanted to let you know that we are going to kind of follow along a little bit death by PowerPoint, but we will go live on the site. We've got a really exciting new roles and permissions to share with you guys. It's gonna like raise the roof on what we do as tech admins in the backside, and it's going to help us to streamline a lot of what we do. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and just double check that everybody got the link. And we've got a couple more people joining us. So I'm going to give it just a second. And we're off to the races. All righty. So the goal of today's session is to try and give you guys just a little sneak peek into the background. Some of you are brand new to this role. Some of you have been doing it for a minute. And so what we're going to do is we'll do a little bit of review, but we also are going to go into that new area of the portal and the new roles and permissions. So we also want you to understand some of the many emails that we get for technical support are around the MyLogin third party. So we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive on that. We'll take a look at the difference between technical and accountability administration. And then we're going to provide you an opportunity to ask us questions. But I do want to remind you that on Thursday, from, I believe, is it 1 to 2:30, Rhonda? Check me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
1 to 2:30, we're going to have just kind of like an open forum. So if after today you get into the system and you do some technical updates or you update some users and you have some questions for us, feel free to pop on Thursday and we'll walk you through. We'll answer whatever questions you have. It's not a formal presentation on Thursday. It's just kind of an opportunity for you to come in and ask us questions about how to administer accounts. So with that said, a couple of things that we'll do today is we are going to move through what is available to you on the website as a administrator. It is a user administration guide that Cheryl and her team put together. And so we'll reference that. We will also take a look at some other resources that are available to kind of support what you do with being a back-end administrator in the portal. So there's a couple of things here on the agenda. We'll just kind of roll on through and keep moving. And so if you don't know who I am, I'm Jen Parker. I work at Macomb Intermediate, and I do a lot of the professional development support on the backside for the portal. Joined today by Cheryl Twitchell, who is a SEPI goddess in data and all things MISchoolData. And she joins us not only today, but for a lot of our technical updates that we have throughout the school year. I've also got my partner in crime here at MISD, Christy Martin, who is our Director of Management Tech, and she's actually in charge of the grant and all things MISchoolData here. And then I have Dr. Rhonda Provost, who is my other wing woman in MISchoolData. So you will probably see her with a lot of the regular listserv updates that come out to you, like talking points, which come out every month, or new PD offerings, or reminders about webinars and what's coming soon. So that rounds out the group of our team today. And feel free to reach back to any of us if after today you have questions. Also want to recognize in the house, in the MISchoolData land, if you're new to it, we have a statewide leadership team, and they used to be called regional advisors, but now they are just a statewide leadership team network. We utilize the MAISA framework. So you probably have somebody in your region who could be your go-to to do training or help you coordinate a professional development, come in on a webinar, help you with some resources, or just help you with guiding the conversation around MISchoolData. So if you are not familiar with who your person is or who your contact is, you can always hit this link here and it will give you the list and the contact information for your state leadership team people. All right, so let's get to the good stuff today. Guys, I can't even tell you how many emails and fun facts that we get at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year asking us questions about how to administer accounts. And so one of the things that is very helpful for you, I am sure, is this account maintenance guide, which is available through the slide deck. You can click on the link, but I actually have it pulled up already. And this will walk you through several of the main things that you do as a backend administrator in the portal. You might just be a technical administrator, or you might be an accountability administrator, but really all things said and done, you're a backend administrator on the portal. And this is a user guide that'll help you with permissions, roles and permissions, user roles, who gets what, how to activate or deactivate accounts, and etc. So that is out there, and that will guide some of the conversation today. So if after today you can't get to it, hit the link here in the slide deck. And I also want to remind you that all the things that we're going to be talking about today are here in the portal under this admin tab under manage users. And so the user admin manual that I'm sharing with you right now is right here when you come into the backside to start working your magic on all of your account updates. There are also a permissions list and reference guide, some FERPA resources, the new FERPA forms that we'll talk about, and then some information from the Department of Ed, the U.S. Department of Ed. So those are some resources here that we will circle back to. Okay. So what is it you got yourself into when you decided to be a technical administrator on MISchoolData, or when you drew the short straw, shall we say? Well, it's your job to activate accounts, deactivate accounts, monitor the use, make sure that the people that you're giving logins to have the right permissions, and that they should have those permissions. I'm not going to say that you would tell a superintendent no when he requests something, but it might be your job to make a call back to a sup and say, you might not understand the permission that you gave someone. I'm happy to do whatever you ask, but this is what this permission will do. So those are the kinds of things that you as a backend administrator do in your organization. The other thing I'll say is the FERPA stuff, okay? The new user forms have an element of FERPA compliance that is required to get a login. So maybe your organization has a different way to do FERPA in your organization, but we still have it as part of our MISchoolData new user request form. So it's pretty important that they have to complete that part of the form. Another element here is that you ensure EEM authorizations, which means if you get a form that says Fred Flintstone and you know he's not really an assistant superintendent at XYZ school, you know that because you got in to verify that he is who he says he is. So we know that you know your people, but just making sure when you're giving accounts, it is to anyone else. Christy want to ask if you had any other thoughts or suggestions or kind of overview on the roles and responsibilities of our family of back-end people.
Sure, that education entity master, I put that in the chat. That is the database at CEPI that controls everything else. All the other systems sit on top of that. And it does have the accountability administrators are listed, the superintendents are listed, principals are listed, as well as what particular school, when it opened and closed, etc. So if you're not familiar with the EEM, I'd be happy to go through that in tomorrow's open session and give you a tour.
Thursday. Is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow. Okay. Get my date straight. Okay. Another way that we know who you are, or that the public knows who you are. So right now is a busy time for all of us. We've got a lot of staff changes, new principals, new superintendents, curriculum directors, etc. How do they know who to reach out to get an account on the portal, or get activated? Well, on the MISchoolData website, there is a support tab here. And if you go to this section, the professional development toolkit actually has the listing of all y'all. And we go to the tab called technical and training contacts. and you are in here by your ISD. We also list you by your MAISA region just for help with your state leadership team, but alphabetical list by ISD. Rhonda, do you want to talk quickly about how these get updated with who does what?
Sorry, I was muted. Sure. These are updated. Our primary stakeholder group is the GELN, and they excuse me, they provide updates every month. And then those are transitioned into the PDF file that's available on the help and support under CEPI, as well as our ISD technical contacts page that's specific to the professional development toolkit. And these are pushed on Fridays every week. So as these are updated, they are updated weekly to the master website on MISchoolData.
So you'll find that you are the person, the technical or accountability contact, by going into help and support and coming down here to this K-12 list, which is the same as what is updated on the website in the technical and training contacts. So if I come in, here's the master list that GELN gives us. And then if I come here back to the PD toolkit and you come to the tabs, this tells your districts who to contact at the ISD. So when you're doing training with your SUPs or anyone, they need to know who you are and how to contact you. This is how they do it. And please verify if there are any email addresses that are incorrect. Please get those to Rhonda. She can get those updated for us. Okay. There is a difference between a technical and an accountability administrator. Folks, we know that things are going to be evolving as we've got these new roles and permissions, but the technical contact is usually someone who is administering accounts. An accountability contact is someone who can say, yes, this person should have accountability permissions. And so they really are probably going to be evolving as we move forward, but there are two different ways that we identify you guys as user administrators. So I've shown you that you come into the admin section, you come into this back area. I'm going to come into admin. I'm going to go to manage users. And here is where you guys spend most of your day to update accounts. So that is where all the magic happens. All right. And Christy, did you want to go ahead and walk me through some of these slides, or did you want to take over?
Sure, you can be the slide clicker.
Okay, I will be the slide clicker.
All right, thanks. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is searching, creating, and updating users. Within the search options, and I encourage you to look at this because CEPI has made a lot of changes here, and you may not know that these exist, but we can do filters by clicking on a number of items here, and that'll make the page refresh much quicker and also get you to the data you're looking for in a quicker manner. Sometimes I'll only know someone's first name, and that's a bit of a problem. But also, if there's a user with the last name of Martin, like myself, you know, it's going to be a lot harder to find the list of all the Martins versus Nicole Kalmbach. I know that it'll be a little easier to look for the Kalmbachs in our, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but the Kalmbachs in the MISchoolData users. With that, it's a lot easier to do that and to look through the list if you can narrow that down. Sometimes the search that we're doing has unanticipated results. Like if I'm looking for the last name of Washington and I just put Washington in there and I don't restrict any of the filters, I'm going to get every school name Washington. I'm going to get every username Washington. You know, it just will end up with an unusable list.
And it's so much quicker than having all of these marked off. It's just so much quicker.
So the user maintenance times, we encourage you to look at in the spring and in the fall. So we're approaching fall to review the accounts in your region. The way it's easiest to do this is to go to a particular district or your ISD and download the file. So if I bring up a list of the people just as is shown on the screen, and I press the download button on the right-hand side of the screen, I will receive an Excel file that makes it a lot easier to be able to send that out to the constituent districts. But we do ask you to do that each year in fall and spring. That certainly helps us keep the MISchoolData system tidy and secure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So do you do that for each individual school district, or you're saying we would do it like just for the ISD or for the RISA?
What I do is I run it for Macomb ISD, so I only have to do the download once, and then I do my sorting in Excel. I turn on the filters and restrict out the districts so that I only have to do it once. But if you have 3 districts, it will be a lot easier just to do it where you're using each district and downloading the 3 files. I have 22 districts, so it is easier for me to do it the other way. Your option.
Okay, thanks.
And a suggestion would be, it's the beginning of the school year, to give your districts their list of users, because a lot of them aren't aware that they have people that are still in the system that have permissions that they don't want them to still have access to. So it falls on us at the ISD to be the keeper of the keys to the kingdom, to make sure that they don't have access if they aren't supposed to. So it's best practice to download those lists and push them out at the beginning of the school year.
One other thing that I do is I ask the school improvement consultants. I know that each ISD has some school improvement consultants, and I ask them for their list, the current list of users. And usually they will tell me, oh, yep, so-and-so retired. They're no longer here. And I'm able to make those accounts inactive in that manner too. So that's a little trick. That's a little trick that I use.
It's a great suggestion, Christy. All right. So we talked about the downloading of the file. Is there any of these others that you want to go into with the ISD, the county, or the district searching?
No, except for every column on the sheet that's just that the screen that's displayed can be sorted. And so there is a sort. Sometimes that makes it easier also to find the person that you're looking for. Finally, there may be some people that have moved from one ISD to another, and that happens quite frequently, actually, at the beginning of the year and in the middle of the year, which makes this review critical. We're happy to help with those. I can go in and make that change very quickly. And that way, because I know each of the technical administrators have access to their own county or their own ISD, sometimes across a couple ISDs in the northern area of our state. But if they cross over and you don't have rights to the next one, I can do it much quicker than all the communication between. I just ask for the forms that show which person is working in which ISD. So we have to make a connection there. So please send me an email and I am happy to help out.
And I know there are screenshots throughout this section of the slide deck, just with some tips and tricks about how to do some filtering and some searching. Chrissy talked about the download feature and scaling down your lists. So with that said, how about making changes to existing users, Christy? I know that this is the beginning of the year and a lot of our teachers and administrators and soups are changing roles or changing buildings or hats or whatever. We get lots of requests at our help desk. Hey, update my login. Let's talk about that.
So account changes do require updated new user forms because the role has changed and that person may need personally identifiable information. And there are several of the permissions that allow that access. But if they have changed roles, we do need a new form to be filled out. And this form is kept at each ISD by the technical administrator. So we do need to keep those on file or electronically in the event of, of an audit, or we need to show SEPI that we are keeping those records and account changes. Sometimes we'll have a superintendent, okay? And those folks are special, as you all know. So I will get a request that says, hey, we have a new superintendent, or the superintendent will call me. So how do I verify that? I will go in and actually verify that on the website. I will also go into the Education Entity Master, and I will also call that particular ISD or district if they're the ones reaching out. So I do use 3 different methods to make sure that that person is supposed to have access at that level, because it is far reaching. Everyone else is much more straightforward than those superintendent changes. When you're adding a user or you're modifying a user, please make sure to go and look for them first. Do a search on their email address. Look for those folks, and then you can make those changes. Please note that the email address can't be changed on the MISchoolData side. It has to be changed in their My Login account. And what I've done for folks that have that type of change is I will hold Zoom meetings, or like a little quick Zoom with the person. I'm telling you, it completely saves so much time to hold that little Zoom versus 10 emails floating back and forth as the frustration mounts for that person. So if they can't change the email address, and usually they just need somebody to sit on the Zoom with them, and they do all the work because they're the ones that have to log in and make that change.
I have to say that is probably one of the most common emails that I get at the beginning of the school year. How do I changed districts. I need my work email. I need my account updated, and they want me to change it's like, I can't change your email. I cannot change your email. You got to go into My Login third party first before you even call me to move from Lapeer County to Macomb County. You need to fix your My Login third party account first and put your new email in there before you even ring a ding Jen Parker to update your MISchoolData access. I know, Megan, you're laughing, but I get that email a whole lot.
They forget.
They do.
We're trying to
Well,
keep
it's kind of
everything.
new. It's kind of new.
And I
So-
would just like to add that just because you make those directory level changes, I'm going to respond and say to you, thank you for the updates for your respective ISDs. However, have you gone in and made the proper changes at the user level and permissions?
Yes.
So just throwing that in the circle as well.
So My Login third party is a big part of where all edits happen. All right.
We talked about this where the account changes require the new user forms, and the permissions, you just click on the box to add or remove a particular permission for somebody. A person is not allowed to have 2 roles at a particular district. And so that gets a little tricky, but you would be taking a role off and adding a different role on. In the creating users, I will put in a date and comments of what happened with a particular user and how I might have modified that person's account. In order to add permissions, you must check the FERPA, the sign notification box, or you won't be able to go to the permission screen. So that one is critical, and it's saying, hey, I'm authorizing and swearing on my honor that I have that signed authorization form, and I'm clicking that box. The comments, and we did have some problems with accountability at one point. Maybe you guys have had experienced that also, where some of the menus didn't drop down. And so I would have to go in on a couple users. I would need to make changes to their accounts frequently. Every single time I touched that user, I would put in the comments the date that they requested this to occur. Here's why I did it. And then the next time I would add another line and say, here's what happened with this particular user account. So I use it for the changes that I'm making. I don't use it as when I enter each individual user for the first time. Jen, do you do that? You do it for the first time?
I don't, but I have to say that these comments are really valuable, especially with superintendents that move district to district or county to county. I mean, I've gone in and made a note and said, you know, this person was changed or this person was updated. You guys don't realize how valuable these comments are. Just you telling us quickly what you've done or a change you might have made based on a FERPA. Just keep it like a back channel chat or a little scroll for us, just so we know you've made I made an update on this date, got a new signed form and added accountability editing or something like that. So please use that comment feature to help us all. Deactivating user, is there a silver bullet, Martin?
Nope, I have no silver bullet. However, it's very quick. So you are able to just remove location from the main screen, or you can go in and do it the long way. So the biggest piece is that we want to make sure that the people that have access to MISchoolData in the secure area are supposed to have it. And I know you're all working real hard to make sure that that's the case.
Do you want me to go live and do we want to show them how we might remove somebody
Sure.
or deactivate them?
Yep.
I'm not sure if she's still in here. One of the things in the old system would be that people were, so here is an example of a consultant that used to be here at the ISD. She's still got her MyLogin third-party account. She's still out there in the system, but she does not have access to anything. She doesn't have an entity. She doesn't have a location. She can't get to anything or anyone. So if she did land, so she leaves our ISD and we deactivate her. We remove access to her building. So let me just show you what that looks like. I'm going to go into her account. I come down here. She doesn't have any buildings. She has access to no buildings. So if I were to add a role, I could select a location, give her new district, but her MyLogin third-party account stays the same, but we just are removing access to locations. Does that make sense? Is there any questions on that?
Can you look up Joyce Arball?
Oh yeah, let's go there.
So Joyce's role changed, and she's in charge of our early college of Macomb and our international baccalaureate. She used to be working on school improvement and identified schools in Warren Consolidated. So she had access to Warren Consolidated. I'm not sure this has been cleaned yet. But that piece would need to change. So we would go in and we can remove one location for her, like the
You already removed the Warren Con. As soon
Okay,
as I
all
got
right.
the update, I removed her.
Okay. So here's where she has 3 different areas, but we could go to that remove location. Can you go back, Jen?
Yep.
We don't even have to go into the account. When she shows up on the screen, there's a remove location right in this box. So you can save yourself several clicks by removing location right where Jennifer's pointer is. I can remove it right there. So that person, she has 3, but I remove location. Now she'll just have 2, and I never have to even go into the edit.
Yeah. It is really important, you guys, that you generate those lists, get them to your local districts, have them give you a list of who needs to be removed from their building or from access. And you get in here and remove these location settings because they have access to student level data, and we do many of them, and we don't want that to happen. All right.
Now this is very cool because we have the remove location. It's quick. Changing districts, they would give you a new form from their district and it would be authorized, and that's all set. They'd never lose their MyLogin for third-party account. That always is there. So when they move from district to district, or they take that wonderful new promotion at another district, or they find their dream job in another location, their My Login is right there. And we were able to, as the technical administrators, go in, locate that person in the system, and be able to add the appropriate permissions given their user authorization form.
And I think these are just some additional notes on deactivating and the My Login and the changing of the districts, just for your review and just kind of reminders of what we've talked about today. Changing buildings, etc. All right. Thank you, Christy. Cheryl, we are up. We are going to talk about the process for new users. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit through, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl to walk us through these new roles. Because guys, it's pretty exciting. We've got a new ISD user, a new district user, a new school user. But here's what happens when we have new users come into our organization that have never had a MyLogin third-party account. So we think we have narrowed this down to a fail-safe one-pager of what people need to know. Kathy Berry, you're laughing at me. It used to be what, 12 pages long? But people need direction and screenshots. Just saying. Okay, so here's in a nutshell. You got a principal that moves here from North Carolina. They now need access to MISchoolData. They are going to, number one, create a MyLogin third-party account and verify their login. Number two, they are going to go into MyLogin third party and request the app called MISchoolData, because there's all kinds of apps in MyLogin third party, but they just want the MISchoolData app. They'll have to go in and verify, and they'll get an email. Then, only then, after they have a MyLogin third party account, do they reach out to the ISD, and you'll give them the new user form to fill out. They'll tell you what permissions they need, and you will go in and find them in the list and activate them by giving them a role, giving them some permissions, etc. So we put the background in yellow, because if there's one thing you want to make poster size and put it next to your computer so you know the process, this is the one. The other piece I'll add here is we've got a new quick start guide, and you guys have probably seen this before. This is what we generally send to our folks that need an account, because it's a how-to guide. And the other thing we send to them is the FERPA form, or the new user form. I have to quit saying FERPA because it's the new user FERPA form. So these are the two documents that get emailed to someone who asks you for a new account. We've given you some screenshots here in case you get called upon to do a board meeting like a superintendent's meeting or a principal's meeting, for folks that need to know how to get their login and etc. Again, they go in and create their account, they request access, then they contact you after they have done all that and they've got a MyLogin third party, and they give you the account and they reach out to the right person. A reminder that these new forms have been out for a couple of years. These are the official forms that you should be using. Some of your ISDs had an online survey at some point, but please note that whatever your process is, you're responsible for keeping these records and keeping access of these forms, because they're highly sensitive information. And lastly, we've got some FERPA stuff, and I know Christy is serving on some very important work groups across the networks that she's on. Do you want to talk a little bit about the FERPA training and some of the resources that are out there?
Absolutely. Thank you. The Privacy Technical Assistance Center from our federal government has FERPA training available on their main website. And we've given you the URL here. They're online training modules, and they're actually really good. They have little quizzes throughout. There's 101, and then there's also one for the state level folks. So I highly recommend these. I went through it myself, and I have to tell you that I did not get 100% on my first try. So having done this, I was well, a little daunted because I wanted that 100%, but it showed me that I was still learning as well. And I thought this was really a great resource. We also have a FERPA course that is in EduPaths. And we also recommend you go through this class. It's worth one sketch, and you are able to go through. It's pretty quick, and it solidifies your information and your knowledge of the Family Equal Rights to Privacy Act, FERPA.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. All right, Cheryl, I'm ready for you, girl. For those that are going to be going in and understanding about permissions, etc., just kind of a heads up, we're in that user manual that Cheryl and her team put together. In section 3, there is a permissions list and descriptions that many of us have printed and have available, because it's important that you know what they are. So Cheryl, tell me a little bit about there's a ton of permissions that are out there. Why is it these guys' job to know what the permissions give people access to?
Well, depending on what you're giving them access to, they can see personally identifiable student level data or just aggregate data. So it really is important that you're aware what you're giving them access to. What is it? Secure data that only certain individuals should see? Is it accountability data that only accountability folks should see? Is it unsuppressed data that you want them to have access to? Is it something that you want them to see in preview? That kind of thing. So it's really important to know, based on what permission you're giving them, what level of access they're getting. It makes a huge difference.
Could you give us an example of unsuppressed data that if I gave like an elementary teacher access to that data, what might they see?
For the unsuppressed data, well, if you're talking just the unsuppressed data, they're going to be able to see all of the like really small numbers. If you've got subgroups of students that, for one of the subgroups, whether it's gender or race, ethnicity, or economically disadvantaged students with disabilities, we have suppression rules set in the reports. And so for when it's suppressed, it's suppressing based on the end count or the student size of 10 students or less in a subgroup area. And so the data are suppressed so that a reasonable person cannot easily identify an individual student based on that subgroup.
Thank you.
So for the people that get the access to the unsuppressed data, they're going to see those small numbers. And depending on the level of permission, you might actually see the student's name and UIC number, or you're just going to see the actual numbers. And based on those actual numbers, if you know your student population well enough, you can probably surmise who that student is. But because you're being given access to that data, it's still your responsibility to make sure you're not sharing that with other people.
So we can see a couple of permissions here that are very sensitive. The student pathways with sensitive information, the early childhood with sensitive information, preview data, and student performance data. Those are kind of a little bit darker in this picture, but those are really sensitive permissions that you better know what they mean for the person that you're giving it to, because you guys are ultimately responsible when you check the box and allow them to have that. So to spin that around a little bit, it's also the superintendent's job to understand when they sign that form what they're giving access to. So you may need to have some dialogue between you about what those access levels mean. State assessment and preview, third grade early childhood, and then special ed dashboard. What are some of the sensitive things that are available when we check these boxes, Cheryl? That state assessment and preview, what does that mean when I turn that on for somebody?
For the state assessment and preview, they're going to be able to see mostly all of the majority of it is aggregated data for all of the MSTEP, MyAccess, SAT, and PSAT data. So the state assessments that all the students took and how they did as far as their performance, whether they're proficient or not proficient or partially proficient, or, you know, that type of thing.
And this year that's coming out on what date?
The preview period is going to start on August 23rd.
Thank you. So a lot of principals like to see the state assessment and preview, correct?
Oh, definitely.
So that is usually a permission that we turn on for all principals. State assessment and preview is something that is just kind of something that is turned on for all building roles, like curriculum directors or principals. How about third grade early childhood assessment data? That permission, that's a sensitive one. What can they see? What can that person see if that's turned on for them?
That is specifically student level assessment data. So for that third grade assessment report, it's showing the performance or proficiency of the students in an at the location where they took their state testing, but it's kind of to give the early childhood programs, the folks that run those programs, the opportunity to see how those students that they provided early childhood services to, how they actually performed in their third grade state assessments.
So Dr. Provost, I know you're a early childhood expert. What kinds of people would need access to that third grade early childhood assessment data?
I would say definitely your elementary level staff, primarily your elementary administrators, maybe your continuous improvement teams. And that would be, you'd have the availability to look at the longitudinal data from when those children that were enrolled in public preschool level programs, how they master the proficiency levels at the third grade step testing.
So I could compare Great Start Readiness or Head Start, and I want to trend. I want to see how my Head Start kids did, or how my Great Start kids did.
Right.
Okay.
So any children that would be enrolled in a public preschool, whether it be as well special education students, birth to 5 programs.
Would I ever give a high school principal access to third grade early childhood assessment data?
I would say it would depend on the roles. If they're a K-12 principal, definitely. But I would question maybe if you were looking at secondary level.
Thank you. Okay, special ed dashboard, Cheryl. Special ed dashboard, or how does that get turned on? What do they have to be able to see for my special ed directors? And folks, this is a relatively new area in the portal the last couple of years. Your special ed directors need to be able to see the special ed dashboard, but there is a permission you need to turn on so you can see it. Cheryl, can you tell our friends what needs to get turned on?
Well, we did have the report behind preview, and I don't actually at this point, I don't believe it's behind preview anymore, although this screenshot is showing that. But right now, I think we've taken it out of preview and it's just a secure report only. So I believe you just have to have that view student performance data permission checked, and as long as you've got that checked and you're securely logged in, then you can actually access and see the special ed dashboard.
Awesome. And when they come into the MISchoolData portal in K-12, it is under special education. The special ed dashboard will only show up if you are logged in. And if you've got a special ed person who does not see it, reach back to us or double check their permissions, because this you want to make sure, and that would be a good opening year conversation for your administrators, letting them know the special ed dashboard is available and they have access to it. Christy, did you want to add something?
Just that the reason that they need to be logged in and they have the student assessment permissions is because on the dashboard there are many areas of student assessment, and so that's why that permission makes sense.
Yes, for sure. All righty. So Cheryl, to kind of continue, do I get a drum roll, please? New user roles and permissions.
Woo-hoo.
For those of us that have been doing this for many years, we are very excited because we know that the secure and the accountability users, for a long time, we've had to go in and know the permissions, know what they mean. You've had to change roles between accountability, etc. We think that CEPI has solved the problem, and you don't have to change a principal from a school accountability user to from a school principal. We think there's going to be a magic bullet, and let's see what this looks like. What's new? Fully configurable roles. Take it away, Cheryl Twitchell.
All right. So at the urgent oh, how do I want to say this? So we've heard through the grapevine for a long time that the roles that are set up in MISchoolData work, but not for every situation there is out there for the type of user that is accessing MISchoolData. So to help alleviate some of that, we decided to make 3 different roles fully configurable. We made one at the ISD, district, and school level. So we used just the ISD user, district user, and school user roles. And instead of what you're used to having defaulted permissions assigned to a role, now everything is fully configurable, meaning that every permission for each of those roles, with the exception of under the administration section, the very last permission, the manage researcher files, that is grayed out. Everything else is fully configurable. It can be checked or unchecked based on the permissions that a user needs at that location level.
Cheryl. So
Yes.
the example we have up is something that many of us who have been administering accounts for a long time have had to deal with. I would make a school principal the school principal role, and then accountability information would be needed. And so I would get a new form and I would have to change them to a school accountability user, because the old school principal permissions did not have any of these accountability features available. So the example now, which we include in the slide deck, because
Yes.
a lot of people will be doing this,
Yes.
that school user permission, where obviously they need to see state assessment scores in preview. Obviously they need to see students.
Mhm.
Obviously they're going to want to download student data and view the accountability downloads and issues. So this is a snapshot of what a new principal or a existing principal's role might be changed to, so they can access what they need with one role. So
And
the school user with those permissions on this side is a new example of what these guys might look like.
right. And just to add on to that and reemphasize what Jennifer is saying, is that basically for the ISD district and school user, not only do you have access to the administration and access to data, but now you've got access to all the accountability permissions. So you can use one role to give people what they need in both areas.
So up on the screen is the ISD user permissions one. And you had mentioned this manage researcher files is the only one that's not available.
Yes,
So
that is a CEPI use only. We're the only ones that use that. So we just grayed it out altogether.
perfect. So an ISD user would be an example like a school improvement consultant or a math consultant or somebody working with the local districts, right? The district user would be obviously still no manager researcher files, but still all fully configurable. You could check any of these boxes: district central office staff and curriculum specialists. So my caution in district user would be these accountability permissions, because if you give a school principal access to create, edit, and submit accountability issues to the state, they can speak on your behalf. So that's why it's important to understand these permissions, and we'll do more with that here in a second. And then lastly, the school user permissions. Obviously, they're all configurable. Here are your target audience, or the most commonly requested. School principals ask us for these, coaches, school improvement team members, or teacher leaders. When their forms come in, they would have an option to be a school user.
Oh, Jennifer, can you go back to the
Yep.
screen? I wanted to point out, and we have thoroughly tested this, so we know it's working correctly. Under the administration section, if by chance you go a little willy-nilly in checking permissions, say you check something to create an ISD user or a district user, or even one of the ISD or district accountability users for a school user. Even if you check those, they're not going to be able to have that permission to assign or create a role or edit a role at that level, because it's still based on hierarchy. So if you are a school user, you're only going to be able to administer school level roles. If you're an ISD user, you can administer ISD, district, and school. If you're a district user, obviously you can do district and school, but not the ISD. So just
some
be
of our
aware of
folks that are on might allow their local school districts to administer their own MISchoolData accounts, even though we don't recommend it. If this was a school principal who had the power to administer users, they would only be able to administer the users in his school, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. So here's where the FERPA comes into the new roles and permissions. That FERPA, that first page of the FERPA, or the new user form, has got to be completed. The first section of the new user form talks about administration of permissions, and they're able to administer users, create accountability, and edit accountability. So this is this first section here of your new user form. Like Cheryl was saying, even though it's building sensitive or entity or role sensitive, if you give somebody administer users, they're able to administer accounts. Accountability is very sensitive. If you want them talking to the state and edit and creating accountability users in their district, please make sure they understand the permissions that are associated with what they're checking. The second area of the new user form that they would fill out has these sensitive permissions that we've talked about. The sensitive pathway or student pathways, train the trainer materials, early childhood preview data, and student performance data. There is a description on the new user form to tell them what they're actually doing and getting access to. So just be mindful now that you know that what are sensitive when you see a person's role. And then lastly, the accountability section of the new user form that comes into you for processing. There are some general accountability permissions for like a principal or a curriculum director. They're going to want to download student information and look at the downloads and the issues. They're going to want to look at it. But if you give them the red zone, you can let them call up the state. You can, I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not. I'm serious. You guys need to be very careful about turning these on for anyone, and be really mindful of those permissions. They're very secure, very sensitive. Chrissy, did you want to add anything about accountability?
Just that there should be accountability person at each ISD, as you guys know. If you have a help desk that's helping you administer accounts, if they're going to be the ones that are going through and editing accountability, then they will need to go into the new user role that we will cover in a few moments.
Thank you. And then lastly, the last page of the new user form is for signatures. There's not a single person in this room today that should ever take a new user form that hasn't been signed by a superintendent. Unless they've given someone else the designation and you have it in writing, do not accept a new user form that hasn't been signed by a superintendent. We have a lot of principals that fancy themselves authorized. They're not. So just saying, The other thing I will mention is when you're reviewing these new forms, when they come into you, they need to have this My Login for third-party username. If they don't have that name for you, kick it back to them, because that means they haven't set up their My Login third-party account. They haven't checked their email. They haven't activated it, and they haven't done the first couple of steps on that document we gave you. And so you can't put them in. And you'll be calling, ring, ring, Christy Martin, can you help me? Because, you know, I just can't understand. I can't find them in the system because they aren't in there. Okay. So make sure you've got a My Login and a superintendent authorization and this all filled out, and you should be good to go. And then just circling back to something Christy talked about earlier, that signed authorization gets checked off when you actually go in and manage the user, and you'll also add a comment. Add it, you could say add it to the system 9/20/23. So a couple of other pieces here, and I know that Cheryl has talked through a couple of them, but I wanted to give you some of the most popular that come across Christy's and my desk. We have people in the county, we're the two that administer accounts here. And so we might get a district assistant superintendent who needs accountability permissions. And perhaps they're not gonna talk to the state, but they need to see accountability. So we usually would give them the student pathways, the early childhood preview, and student performance. That would be a K-12 assistant soup, K-12 person who needs a K-12 perspective and wants to view and download accountability information. So this is an example of permissions we might add. Christy, do you have any thoughts on this or any additional comments?
Just that the superintendent role, ISD superintendent role, does not have access to edit accountability roles. Okay. And so that's been kind of a holdup for all of us. And so we would change that to an ISD user and then give the appropriate permissions for that person as in accordance with their request form.
Yeah, so a superintendent's a district user, and then we give them all the keys to the kingdom, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Questions on that, on the role of a superintendent? I know that. Okay, here's another example.
So
You've got
Jennifer,
yes, Karen.
I've got a question about, this may or may not have already been covered and I missed it, about people that are in that have duplicate roles. So I've got some users that have a school role and then another school role. So they're part of two schools, and so they have two separate roles. Does it need to stay that way?
Christy, you want to handle that?
If they're a district person, if they're at the district level, then they either have access to the district, or yes, they would have access to each school if they're assigned to those schools. You know, it really depends on how that district functions and what that role is for the person, what they need to do their job.
Okay, so it's okay if they have two users. It looks like two users.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Because let's say you had 10 buildings, but that consultant or that reading specialist was assigned to 2 of those buildings. You know, you would give them those 2 buildings, but not the other 8.
So, and here's the example, like the Joyce Arbaugh example. She's got access to a couple of different locations. I think we probably could make her. So she uses her same MyLogin third-party account, but she'll have access to multiple locations if it ever loads.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I just wondered if I had done something wrong and it didn't just add the role to the same account, why it creates a duplicate in when I'm viewing my managed users, but that's good. I get it.
Yeah, it's just listing what they have access to. It was confusing at first, but this way it makes it a lot easier to remove the location from that main screen as well. So I like to see what everybody has.
Yeah.
I just like to throw another example out there, especially with data and downloads. When I was at Eaton, we had a third party, because we didn't have a data person at the time, and we had a third party that was downloading all the M-Step data and such to put into reports. And so we had to have permissions from every one of those local superintendents to be able to have that person have access to that data and provide the downloads and the specialized reports that they did for us. So that's just another example. And I know many of the smaller school districts utilize talents of many that are in that type of situation. So
You're leading me into the authorizers, Rhonda, the authorizers that want to come and only give you, say, hey, I have all these schools across your region and I need access to every single one of them. You mean I have to have an account form signed by each one?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
and the third party was another ISD that we were collaborating with. So it wasn't like some private company out there, but just wanted to make that point because we did have to go through all those steps for each local district to sign off, superintendent level.
Another good example. The other one that's up here is the ISD consultant who works with districts. And Ron and Christy raise a good point. You do need to make sure that you've got signed authorizations by every superintendent in your ISD area, authorizing that consultant to have access. So usually at the beginning of the school year, what happens is your superintendents get together for their kumbaya meeting, and you will bring in the FERPAs and just say, Sally Smith is our school improvement consultant. She needs access to all your districts, all your student level information. I need you to authorize the FERPA. So she'll have, for our district, it would be like 22 FERPA forms for me to be able to access, or for new user forms for me to access all the data for all 22 of my entities. So these steps have been in place for a long time, but some of you guys are new. And as we move into the new school year, we're just trying to help you get prepared so that when you got those big meetings with SUPs or school principals, you can just bring the new user forms and get what you need in one swoop. And those consultants probably are going to want to see if they are working like with your priority or your title or et cetera schools, they'll need to see student level data or preview data. And so these two are samples of what an ISD consultant might have to have checked. Christy.
The new testing information, the assessment information hits soon. They have to have preview access to be able to have to see that data in preview. So otherwise known as embargoed. I know this is in there later, but I had to take the moment.
Well, Cheryl, did you want to tell them again what the date was? What's that double tap secret date that you told them about?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. Woo woo.
It'll be available early in the morning on the 23rd.
Promises.
I probably just jinxed us now, but okay.
So this has to be checked. So if your
Yes.
consultants want to be in the know ahead of the curve with the districts, check that box so they can see that every time the state assessment scores come out. All right, school improvement and assessment and your consultant with accountability. So the example we have here at Macomb, and I think maybe Kathy Berry and Lisa Zettel, you guys fall into these roles. You're handling accountability questions, you're handling data, you're handling school improvement stuff. So this might be an example of what like Kathy or Lisa's profile looks like. You're making sure that your district folks have access to accountability information and that you could create a school accountability user or give principal an access. You also want to be able to see all the information on students and preview within the county. And you also want to be able to see the accountability information and download or any issues ahead of the curve. So this example is kind of like the Kathy Berry profile or the Lisa Zettel profile. Any thoughts on this one, Kathy? Is there anything on there that you see that you might be as the grand poobah of everything?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have administer users, but that's something that nobody local would grant to me. That's something you all grant to me.
Right.
So,
Okay. So there we go. So that's kind of an example of a couple of profiles that we see heavy duty here at the beginning of the school year. And when you're going in and adding permission, these are some good bets when you're helping people fill out their forms. Okay. I believe that this one is Cheryl. Did you have anything before we leave the new users, the new user roles and permissions? Any parting shots about creating those accounts before I turn it over?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Okay. Well, this is you. Tell them where they can get more help. Locating resources for technical administrators. Who are all these people and how can they help
Oh,
our
well,
family of back-end people?
yeah, there's lots of places where you can get help, but anything related to MISchoolData, for access questions, you should contact your school administrators. Account activation is your K-12 technical contacts, which Jennifer has shown you where those are at on the MISchoolData website. If you're a local district administrator and you need some assistance, again, it's your ISD technical contact. For anything related to using MISchoolData or technical questions, contact the CEPI Help Desk. You can send an email or a phone or call them. We don't administer or do anything with the the MyLogin third party. So you would have to actually contact their help desk and that information is there. And it looks like for training or professional development, you can go to MISchoolData under the professional development toolkit. And there's all kinds of resources there that are available to you guys. And of course, you can always contact Jennifer Parker or Kathy Miller.
And I will say that the MyLogin for third-party account help that's right here, that is not a double top secret phone number, but I will say that it's hard to find. So this might be another one we need to make bright yellow and print and put up with your tech support resources, because this phone number here for CEPI and this phone number for MyLogin third party are really helpful if you're a back end person. Chrissy, did you want to add anything?
No, just when you call, everyone needs to have patience. I know you do have a lot of calls as well, and at the beginning of the school year in particular. So these folks, there's usually 1 or 2 people that are on the calls for the whole state. So sometimes I'll just ask them to call me back. If they sound hairy, I'll say, can you just give me a call back? And they always do.
Okay. Shirley, you want to tell them a little bit more or just remind them where to find the resources that we talked through today in your user guide?
Sure. So when you guys are logged in under the admin navigation menu, you'll go to the administration menu and get to the manage users page, and up in the upper right hand corner with all those nice big red check marks is the administration manual. There's the permissions list reference guide and your FERPA new user form, as well as some information about protecting student privacy. So we have all those resources listed.
I have one more.
Yep.
I have one more too. And if you have an emergency, there's an emergency, someone is in your office, they are unable to, you're unable to administer that account, etc. This group in particular, please don't post it on your website, but you're welcome to use my cell number that I will put in the chat. Okay. We want to make sure that everyone has access. Okay. So Christy Martin, and now you have my cell. Okay. So, if you do have to leave a message, if you'd please leave, some detail, that would be great. And then I'll be able to give you a call back. Okay. I know you won't have to use it, but this way you've got that safety net. Okay. So I am happy to help.
If that isn't an open invitation to call your cell and spam you on 9/11, which is your birthday, I don't know what is.
Thanks, Jen.
So everybody really tongue in cheek, I just will say that Christy knows more about the back end of my school data than anybody in the state. So besides the CEPI staff, Cheryl, no offense, but if you can make a call to Christy and get her technical support and she's offering her cell number, put it in your phone, put it somewhere with your help desk resources and thank her for the invitation.
Yeah.
So with that said here, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda. And Rhonda, do you want to walk us through just some closing ideas and thoughts about what our tech support folks, our back-end people might need to continue the conversation around MISchoolData this year?
Sure. And I would just like to add that I don't have access to the statewide user group. So Christy is your person to make contact to. She has access to all users on the MISchoolData portal, no matter what their zip code is. So I'm just going to throw that out there because sometimes people will email me and I'll say, well, I'm just going to pass your information on to Jen and Christy. So with that said, we'll wrap up today with our closing. Just a reminder, and those that are new, some of you have reached out with wanting, where do I find access to all of these resources? Well, we have a cadre of resources available, currently known as the Train the Trainer Network, and you will find all of the resources in this Google Drive. Click on the link there and you should have access. Make sure that any documents that you use and you want to customize specific to your training groups, that you make a copy so that you're not compromising the master that's located in the drive. Additional resources that we have are the course for MISchoolData for backend administrators. I know that all of these slides today were very valuable to you. I would suggest, especially in the steps that were provided for user administration, those are going to be key in the next few weeks as you make sure that all of your permissions are adequate and accurate for particular users. And going back through that, I guess I would call it like an ISD cleanup, making sure that all of the users that have left and those that have come in as newbies, making sure that you have accurate information and going forward, because it will be a panic when they can't preview or they're asked by a superior, we're ready for these downloads and such. So you want to make sure everybody's in readiness stage.
And one thing they could do is they could you guys could send a mass blast to your school leader group with the new forms and the quick start guide and just say, hey, a reminder, if you've got new staff and they need new accounts, state assessments are in preview on August 23rd. You're going to need these documents back to me before then, if you want to see it.
Great suggestion, Jen. And then as we move in, I did put the professional learning, the PD toolkit link in the chat. This is all of the resources that we have collected and are available for your use. So that's a evolving site, just to let you know. And we always, through our monthly publications, we provide you with new information as well as what's coming soon and where you can locate these resources. So making sure that you're part of those listservs is really vital, because that's going to keep you in the know, every month as information evolves. However, also know that we have the 10 regions in the state where you can reach out to your ISD regional contact if you need more information on training and such. So going back to the TTT network, you can earn up to 4 sketchies if you go through that course in Schoology, and those links are available there if you would like to register for those courses. And those are, Jen and I, help assist through that process. We also have over 20 courses that are archived and available on Macomb ISD's YouTube site or YouTube channel. And that's just an example of how many are there. And those are being updated again as often as the topics are shared. We have courses also available on the professional learning or in EduPass that are housed in EduPass. the FERPA compliance, as well as getting started. And then we have navigating MISchoolData, the portal itself. So you can register at the EduPass login. And then our schedule for the 23-24 school year for these technical update drop-in sessions. We have set those dates for the year. The registration links are there. Please feel free to come. It's very informal. They're 30-minute sessions. You can bring questions, and it's always very, interactive. So we want to encourage that as well.
So those that are still with us, guys, this series here is something you should put on all of your calendars. It is technical updates that are facilitated by our team, and Cheryl is part of our team. And so SEPI and the ISD partners get together for a half hour. You guys get to sneak peek at what's happening in the portal. If there's any data loads happening or anything under development or any glitches or any struggles or challenges or successes or etc. So if you can be there for these are 30 minutes. They're very informal, but they are where you're going to get information you're going to need that's timely, kind of like reading the spotlight from MDE.
Is
So,
there a deadline for registering for those?
no, and if you register for all of them now, you can get the recordings. So
Right.
that's just a suggestion. This is the series that is for you guys. So
Yeah.
you can find out what's happening.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Jen. And then this is just a repeat of the slide that Cheryl went through summarizing how to get more information. So with that, the tiny URL is there. I can put that back in the chat. You can access the information that we shared today. You can share out with maybe colleagues that weren't able to attend. And
I believe that is not the correct link. I think this is,
oh,
and there we go. I'll just refresh.
Also, I would like to give a huge thank you to SEPI for listening to all of us technical administrators. They really have listened. Sometimes it takes a little longer because of all the different intricacies of permissions and roles, but they heard us. And we're able to make some of these awesome changes that are going to make our jobs a lot easier, faster, more straightforward to be able to give folks what they need. So thank you very, very much.
Yes.
We're happy to help.
All right. So with that said, that ends the formal presentation. We'll stop the recording and we'll take a few questions if you have them. Otherwise, go out and make it a great school year. Thanks everybody for being on today. And we look forward to MISchoolDataing with you in the future.